Hello guys, welcome back to Shaynan's Shelf. I am Shaynan, of course, and this is my channel if you're new here, but I have done this once before and I did have a special guest, and it was the same guest, probably the specialist of guests. Guests.
I would hope.
um, but yeah, this is
I'm Stephanie.
Stephanie, this is my wife. So we're married. She likes me enough to stick around, I guess. It's almost 6 years married, so we're doing okay. And we don't normally read books together, and we didn't actually read this together necessarily, nor did we the last time. That was a mystery series,
Yeah.
and she read it, and then I came just soon after and read it. So we read this book pretty close to each other, and I read this one first actually, and then she read it soon after, mostly based off my glowing review. Um, I don't know. It actually is because
No, it was.
this is Wild Pork and Watercress by Barry Crump, and this is the basis for the film Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah, which we both really like. I think.
Which I showed you.
Yeah, but were you introduced to it by your roommate, Sarah?
No, I was introduced to it by an old ex of mine.
Oh, we're not gonna talk about that. But she introduced it to me, and then I watched it. I watched it while we were dating, so this was before we were married, and we didn't date that long, so it's not like it's been that long ago, all things considered. But either way, Hunt for the Wilder People, I would probably say it's one of my favorite movies. And as far as as far as movies in recent memory, I don't know what my best movies are of all time are or anything like that. But Hunt for the Wilder People is definitely one of those movies I really enjoy. I really like. I would say I love it. I go back to it relatively frequently. I watched it.
Which he does not rewatch movies ever.
Yeah, that's true. I watched it about 2 months ago. I think was the last time I watched it, and I found a cheap copy for this. It actually shipped from Australia, but I didn't pay anything extra for shipping, and it was cheaper than buying some of the ones that would have gotten here faster if I bought them off Amazon. But this took like a month to get here. But it's a very quick read. It's literally just about 200 pages flat, and this is a pretty small book, all things considered. I think this is the New Zealand Penguin Classics print. Because I've seen different prints of this. In fact, this I think is the most popular Crump book outside in the United States, I would say, because I've looked at more Crump books since this, and they all seem to ship from New Zealand or Australia. I don't know how popular Barry Crump is outside of New Zealand and Australia, if I'm being honest, because most of them are more expensive than I normally want to spend for a 200-page quick read. But I've been very tempted. I actually really, really enjoyed this.
Well, this one also it's from the perspective of a child. He's only a teenager when all this is happening. And it reads very much like how a child would, like, oh, we did this and this, and oh, by the way, there was this, but it's a very, I still like it because it's still insightful into like the human condition, which is one of Barry's. He's known for one of, what is that called? It's his style.
The psychology of his characters, pretty much. It's nothing. I wouldn't say it's anything like super deep.
No, it's not. But
it's not as shallow as you might think about just some old guy and a kid, Maori kid, like bushwhacking it. And the movie was, if you've seen the film, is quite true to the book. I can say confidently, I think the book is better. I think that's almost always been the case. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that I thought was better. What? Do you think the movie is better, or do you like the book more?
No, I appreciate the book a little bit more. But the movie appeals to me just because of the addition of some of the characters in it that were just really, really humorous characters, really memorable lines that they say. But even in this one, he has really witty comebacks to some things that are going on. But this book is one of the very few that's actually made us laugh out loud.
Yeah, honestly. I got a good couple belly laughs out of this one. And I don't think this book was written to necessarily be funny, but I think it's just his natural humor that comes through. And I would assume this is typical for other Barry Crump books. Obviously, I just haven't read others. I plan to change that at some point. I would really like to read more Barry Crump. I really enjoyed this book.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it might be on the top 10. It felt like a very
wholesome read. Very wholesome.
Yeah, definitely wholesome. The ending was not what was expected. In fact, I could see perhaps enjoying the ending more from the films, which actually isn't actually in many ways that different. It just kind of feels implied that it's the implications feel a bit different, I guess, than this one.
Yeah.
but not drastically different. And
Well,
the character, like the CPS lady, pretty much I think was a good addition because she is not in the film. Sorry, in the book. And their relationship is essentially the same in the film, except it just progresses a bit differently because they actually kind of start getting along before Auntie Bella dies. Well, in the film, it doesn't happen until she dies. So some variations, and I think Taika Waititi adapted, to the screenplay pretty well.
oh
I think Taika Waititi is a great director, generally speaking. Um, but the book was excellent. Yeah, very feel good almost.
yeah, it was.
So, which is not.
Except
I
for
think,
the very ending, which I mean
yeah.
is technically open to interpretation. You can decide what you feel like happened. But yeah, overall, it kind of made you, experience it with them and experience it from. You get to experience a kind of magic as you go along with it, and his sense of wonder as you go along with it, essentially, and his deep appreciation with it, and you learn with Ricky, essentially. That was the main character. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe a good word to describe it, although it's something I've never felt before or anything like that, is nostalgia. It feels like a nostalgic
It
story.
kinda does.
Um, and it seems because it's not even necessarily something I would want to do, what they do. But at the same time, I think.
No, I'm pretty sure I would die very early on.
I think part of it. That's fair. I mean, I think I might too. But and I'm an Eagle Scout, so I'm not sure. But I think part of it for me is that I already have some sort of love, I guess you could say, or at least an appreciation for New Zealand culture. It's one of those things I've thought about. Like, I wouldn't mind. In fact, I would be quite content with the. I'm quite content with the idea of moving to New Zealand, like moving us and our kids to New Zealand, and that might just be romanticizing a country from a distance, which can be very easy to do. But I've watched a good amount of New Zealand film and media. I'm trying to read more New Zealand books, especially. I've mostly limited myself to just Maori stuff up to this point, and I've greatly enjoyed it. I plan to read more of that, but I kind of wanted to read just this normal Kiwi bloke, bush guy, and I really enjoyed it. The more I read about New Zealand, even of course if it's fictional stories like this, the more I just want to I just want to go to New Zealand, even if not necessarily live there or anything like that. So that might just be me being a silly boy, but either way, that helped me. I feel like it added to the desire and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's a sweet story. It is. It's innocent and wholesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
highly recommend. Definitely. So
Yeah, and go watch Hunt for the Wilder People. It's a good one.
but I don't know. Yeah, highly recommend the book. Highly recommend the film as well. I feel like more people were likely to have read the film, especially if they're not
Read
from.
the film?
Yeah, they're more likely to have seen the film, especially if they're an American like we are.
Yeah.
But I think it's on Netflix or something, or it was. It's still streaming
At least
somewhere
used to be.
in the United States. But it's a great film. Book even better, and you can find relatively cheap copies for the book as well, just on Amazon if you live in the States. So can definitely recommend it. And if you have read other Barry Crump books, please let us know which ones
are your favorites, so we can prioritize getting those ones first.
Yeah, definitely. Because I definitely hope to read more Barry Crump, if I'm being perfectly honest. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
He's an interesting storyteller.
Yeah, good bloke.
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually say bloke over there, but it's a British thing at least. I'll just delete all the city accent stuff. Because I'm not really good at accents anyway. Anything. She's a good wahine.
Did they say wahine or did they say wahini?
Wahine.
Okay.
Like it's wahine, right? I think that's what
Sure.
that
I don't
one guy said.
remember.
But there's different dialects anyhow. I'm reading a story about the Taranaki people on the west coast, like New Plymouth, and they don't say fucker, they say waka, and they don't say the perihaka, it's periaka. Like they don't do they do the H's and the F's different. I don't know why, but I know that the southern to white Ponemy
I'm pretty
dialect.
sure that if
Is
I
a bit
take you to
different
New
too.
Zealand, we're
It's
going
like-
to get bloody well beat up with
the
something.
the
He
two,
starts doing that, and they're just like, "You what, mate?"
They'll be able to tell I'm a phony, I'm a poser.
Kick us back to
Not
America.
really. I'm just an American. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just here to make fun of the locals. Just kidding. I don't recommend doing that. But either way, I do love the New Zealand accent, and that's something that Americans are actually really big into. They just love accents, and it's something I've not ever been drawn to. Like, I hear British accents, I'm just like, okay. If it's a Cockney accent, it actually makes me want to throw up a little bit. Sorry. No offense.
That's so offensive. How is that not offensive?
I can't stand
Your
it.
voice makes me want to hurl.
But most Americans, regardless of what British accent it is, like, and there's such a very high variation, most Americans just swoon for that, especially American women, generally speaking. And I don't know if most Americans could even tell if it's a New Zealand or an Australian accent either. They would probably just say, "Oh, you're British," or whatever. We have a hard time with our education system, to be honest. Not like we learn in schools anyway.
Well, it's also we're not really exposed to Europeans that much.
No,
Not a
but
lot of Americans are exposed, especially to the different countries in it. If they are, are they going to freaking tour Paris? They're not.
Yeah,
likely to go
that's
to
fair. I mean, well, so she lived in north side of London a little bit,
did.
for maybe a year.
And he was
in the
bloody
high
well
school.
right with the Cockney accents. No, I'm just kidding.
But they I don't know. I'm not. It's not necessarily a European thing. It's just an English, like, accent speaking English, right? And I consider most the Anglosphere are
we typically
cousins
fawn over
and
them.
brothers. Like, I don't fawn over Canadians. That's disgusting. How dare you? But at the same time, I don't fawn. They sound very American, generally speaking. I don't. Besides, like, Quebec, like, all their accents that you can find in Canada are pretty much, actually, besides Quebec and, like, Newfie accents. And there probably are some I'm missing, but most the general commoner accent in Canada is just like the general commoner accent in the United States, and they have some weird, like, accents that you can find in Minnesota and stuff like that too. But generally speaking, I consider them our brothers or cousins at the least, and I feel the same with the Brits, the Aussies, and the Kiwis. It's just maybe their accent makes it more obvious that they're not actually from the same neighborhood. But culturally speaking, I consider us. I feel like I would feel relatively at home. Obviously, there would be some differences, but it wouldn't be as
Stark
much
difference.
as stark, as much of a culture shock as compared to, like, I lived in another English speaking country in Ghana, but it's just so different. The culture shock was still,
Oh yeah.
very prominent. But either way, we kind of detracted from talking about Wild Pork and Watercress, which again can highly recommend.
Really good book.
And I think it's stories like this that help you get
It's a sweet
an
story.
idea for countries, maybe. I guess you can let us know if you're a Kiwi. I know, Mark, you live in New Zealand, have for a while, so I don't know if there are a lot of rugged bushman types like Barry Crump or his characters, but those are just a huge variety anyway. Like, I don't feel like people read old westerns to get an idea of what Americans are like, but to be honest, there are some people like that. There are still cowboys, definitely. I mean, where we live, even, so in Arizona. In fact, I've probably met more actual cowboys in Arizona than any other place I've lived, including Texas. But I did live in the city in Texas. People were just wannabe cowboys, so they wear cowboy hats and stuff like that. But they were never been on a farm in their life or anything like that, or on a ranch. So either way, we'll stop talking about that now. Go read Barry Crump, Mr. Crumpy himself, and please feel free to dislike the video for the accent mocking and stuff like that. But I'm still gonna upload it. So either way, but thanks for being here. Thanks for coming, Steffi. Thanks for doing it with me. This was not our original plan to read it together or anything like that, but
no, it made you laugh out loud, and it's I like the movie. I think it's a really sweet movie. So I wanted to read it too.
Yeah. So have a good one, guys. See you next time. I don't know when we'll be doing this again together, but it wasn't too long.
Once I can convince him to read like a Clive Cluster or something.
Probably not happening. See you though. Bye.
Bye.